I sensed something. A ghost's trying to approach me, and got leery.
And I got leery.
Man, King Boom Boo is the most random ass ghost, like random ass thing in this entire game. He's
And
just
yeah,
Stupidest
I'm
boss in
gonna
Sonic
be
history.
honest.
okay.
From a
Okay,
gameplay
Gareth.
perspective,
There's a lot of stupid ass bosses in Sonic. Let's be real.
And this is the worst. This is the stupidest of all the stupid. I wish they would have kept the original line reading where he's going, "What? A ghost?" It's like a Scooby-Doo fucking episode.
well, to be fair, they kind of foreshadow it with the ghosts in the previous levels, and this is one of the more fun bosses to play. For sure, it's just kind of comes out of nowhere.
I actually disagree. I think this is one of my least favorite bosses in the entire game.
Well,
I
none of the
was about to
bosses are
say-
fantastic, though.
The game series remembers Knuckles is supposed to be fast.
I was about to say that King Boom Boo is my favorite boss in the game. But that's more because I think the bosses in the Adventure series, including this game, are fucking terrible.
Yeah, they're
Lewis, every time you open your mouth, I want to suck you. All right? Shut up.
You say you wanted to suck him?
Sure, why not, Johnny?
Yeah.
Fine. All right. Get your mind out
Well,
of the gutter.
some of them are better than others. I will agree that the character fights in this game, as a general rule of thumb, there are some very slight exceptions. But I think some, I think the final Sonic and Shadow fight is fun. Not nearly as good as the Generations version, granted, but I still think it's fun.
I will say, in terms of character boss fights, without question, SA2 does them better than SA1 did. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no. Give me your best. Oh no.
Yeah, but that's not saying a whole lot.
Yeah, that's not saying a whole lot. I think character battles wouldn't get any sort of quality until Generations.
No, I will say the Sonic Shadow fight at the very end of the game. Knuckles and Rouge's fight's annoying. Both of the Tails and Eggman fights suck. But, for the bigger bosses, I think are okay, not great. I think boss fights as a whole are a weakness of both adventure games. Because really, when it comes to the bigger bosses, I do think fare pretty okay. And this is fun to use.
Lewis, why do you say this is your favorite fight?
Because it's, it gave me the actual feeling of fighting a boss fight for once, which is not something that I got in Sonic Adventure 1 at any point, except for the Egg Viper boss. And at the same time, it still has all the hallmarks of what make 3D platformer bosses in general kind of shit. And it's a lot more, how do I say... Have you ever noticed that 3D platformer bosses are all just really set patterns and there's no way to speed them up whatsoever?
Well, there is a way to speed up that one where you can get them down in 2 cycles if you're quick about it. So
I will say I love the animation where Eggman just waves as the door opens up. I like that.
This
cool.
cutscene is badass. I will have to say.
I like it.
Yeah.
I love that line. This time I'll take your lives and the Chaos Emerald. That's a pretty good line.
It's kind of funny because at this point, this midpoint of the game, they throw like the 2 best bosses in the game at you back to back.
Honestly, I think the Bio Lizard is the best boss. Shadow fighting the Bio
Dude.
I think we'll
debatable.
We'll get to it.
Debatable. I like the Bio Lizard boss, relatively speaking, but at the same time, it has 1 or 2 particular portions of the fight.
It's hard. Part of it is that I like that it's hard. Whereas, the King Boom Boo and a Golem, I think, are fun boss fights, but they're also piss easy because boom, 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 boom. Okay, you win.
one thing I will say, which I understand why it didn't happen, but the fact that there is no Sonic Eggman fights in this game, I think, is kind of a letdown.
It would be cool because I think it would be fun in both perspectives, actually. Sonic fighting the mech and Eggman and the mech trying to shoot Sonic. I think both would have been cool.
Yeah.
And also, I think, if you wanted to have a level to shake things up, I think Eggman, piloting a giant boss robot and having that be a minigame would have been better than a cart level.
I think, to me, to this day, is one of SA2's biggest missed opportunities.
Yep.
Is the fact that Eggman is I mean, and now we said earlier that Eggman in the mech makes perfect sense for the character, but it also makes perfect sense for him to have other contraptions.
I
and
think he should have had
use
at
any of
least
them.
one. I think that would have been like if Eggman were piloting the Golem here. I think it would have been cool.
Yeah, that would have been.
And
that
Eggman
would've
piloting
made
the
more
Golem
sense.
would have been and fighting Sonic would have been a much cooler fight than Eggman just also fighting the Egg Golem.
Eggman fighting the Golem is possibly the stupidest thing in this.
Well,
like,
it does lead to the greatest cutscene in Sonic history, though.
Can I just take a moment to appreciate how fucking stupid it is whenever the Egg Golem happens to head desk on one of the bottomless pits?
I was like, Eggman, why did you build retractable things in the back of the Egg Golem for?
No,
like-
well, he has a restraining bolt on it. I always figured it was just here, and he took control of it. So
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
You think he'd possibly remove those, thinking, I've fought Sonic a bunch of times. He has a history of getting close to things if he can jump.
He has a
Let me
history
remove
of fucking me in the ass.
brief question: the scene of Sonic running into the shuttle is does he have the normal shoes on in that?
I
or-
think he does. I think he does because I think obviously they were working on the CG before the Stope deal got in. So yeah, he does have his in the final cutscene in SA2. He has the soap shoes, but in that one he clearly has his normal sneakers.
Yeah.
I just want to ask something. Why the fuck does Eggman have this space shuttle here? And not from a logic perspective of why would he need it herder because he's got a teleporter. Why this space shuttle, which has absolutely none of the stylistic hallmarks of having been something built by him?
And this, why did they put the Master Emerald shards in the back for? Keep him in the cockpit with the rest of you.
Because there's a cargo bay. I don't know. I will.
We
People,
gotta use this cargo bay.
This dialogue is so
it's
bad.
It's their only car. Okay, first off, I think it would have been better. I love this scene. Fuck
I'm
you.
sorry,
okay?
that is so. The fact that it's for the first 10 seconds, it's just Ryan Drummond going, "Oh no, we're gonna crash!" Ah! And then after he starts screaming, everyone else joins in. I'm like, who edited this? Why wasn't it like that? Scene would make sense if we had Amy, Tails, Knuckles. They're going, "Oh no!" Ah! But in fact, it's just Ryan Drummond for like 30 seconds speaking to himself is hilarious.
Well, okay. I like the scene more in concept than I do in execution because something
Yes,
that
yeah,
I don't
I agree.
something that I don't get people complaining about Sonic Adventure 2 over is people say that this is too dark and edgy, and I don't agree. It's certainly the most serious Sonic game they've gotten up to this point, but there's still plenty of humor and levity spiced in, and that shuttle scene is one of the bigger ones because at this point things were just relatively intense with the Egg Golem and all of that, and so
but Ted,
comic relief.
I would argue though, Ted, that some of that comic relief is not intentional.
No,
I would argue-
the comic relief there is definitely supposed to be intentional because Knuckles takes over the shuttle and makes them go spinning. That's an intentional joke. They call back.
Yeah,
to
but
it.
that's not what people laugh at.
Yeah, Ted, they laugh at it because of how bad the voice acting / dialogue editing is in that scene.
Well, that's not.
Yeah,
the, that's,
I'm not laughing because they lost the Master Emerald
Oh,
pieces.
Knuckles took over the shuttle. What a
That's not
goofball.
that's not the only example though. There's Eggman doing the temper tantrum after the Eclipse Cannon blows up.
That's
There's-
funny. That's funny.
There's Sonic and Shadow just being like,
It's very minor things that leave a big impact.
yes,
You know, you mentioned Eggman's temper tantrum. My moment is even more smaller because it's very brief. But when Eggman's looking at the news broadcasts when Shadow robs the bank, he scratches his ass.
yeah.
Just for a split second, he scratches his ass.
My favorite one, it's coming up, but I'm gonna spoil it now. It's the one where it's probably my favorite line delivery from Ryan Drummond from any of his games. It's when he has the fake cable. He goes, "You've turned into a big time villain, Doctor." I think Drummond plays that part so well that makes me crack up every time I hear it.
Yeah, there's
and there are good lines in this game.
this game
like,
has tons of great lines. There's
I would say, I mean, it's debatable.
I wouldn't say
but, like,
tons. There are some.
one of
I wouldn't say
my
there's
favorite lines in this and I think it was for last story. It's like just letting Knuckles pile
I
up
was gonna
on the
mention,
way
I
over
love
here
that.
will be more dangerous than you'll ever be. I love that
Yeah,
line.
no, they keep occasional bits of levity going throughout the entire game, which is what keeps it from becoming something like Shadow the Hedgehog, where it was doom and gloom the entire time, and there was
But the
no,
thing
like-
is, I think people's complaints for SA2 being dark and edgy really stem from the final story, where it just gets a serious mood whiplash.
I wouldn't say a mood whiplash. It's a call. I'd say there are stakes. Whereas there are things like one of the issues I have with the plots of some later Sonic games is that they don't take the situation seriously enough. Like in Colors, for instance, Eggman's plan is pretty diabolical. Like he's gonna mind warp all of the planet, but nobody's taking it seriously, so I don't care.
You know what, Ted, I would disagree to a certain extent. Like, while Colors is very jokey, in the cutscenes where they find Eggman's plant when they're doing shit to the Wisps, you can tell that Sonic he's had enough. Then that's when he gets like again. I will agree. Like it is to be fair, that cutscene is then followed by him taunting a robot by doing one-arm push-ups, so it's not perfect.
Yeah.
But there is. But I will say there is. It could have used a bit more, but there is some levity to Colors, especially like the scene where Tails gets mind controlled. Sonic just gets fucking pissed in that scene and just goes to try and just take down Eggman.
I like that there's some real gravity to the situation.
Well,
without
here's
it being...
Yeah,
my-
but at the same time, Colors doesn't need that.
No, it
you know what I
doesn't.
mean?
That's just one example I was trying to give. Like Sonic Generations, that's again like there's none of what's going on in Sonic Generations really makes much sense either.
That game had a plot.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was like, there's a
Here
plot.
is my question, okay? Did anyone complain about Sonic Adventure 2 being too edgy when it came out?
No.
Or was that all retroactive shit when people got fed up with Shadow the Hedgehog?
If I remember some reviews when they came out, because this game got pretty decent reviews. Not as I don't think this got as good as the SA1 reviews. It got some pretty good reviews. But I do seem to remember there were some reviews where maybe not so much in terms of it being dark and edgy, but definitely reading some where they were saying that there's a too much focus on plot. Like, so some people felt that how vast the story goes was not needed for a Sonic game.
You can't argue that. I personally don't think it detracts from anything in this instance.
My question is whether or not the story aged well. You know, because something that you can enjoy as a kid may not necessarily be something you enjoy when you grow up.
I still think a lot of the cutscenes are fun, personally.
I mean, I've even as a kid, I always felt that SA2, compared with SA1 and SA2, SA2 has a more cohesive and kind of better story. But I much prefer the writing in SA1.
That makes sense.
To me, like the moment where I found SA2 story to be enjoyable is, you know, when I first played it the first time. I was a teenager and I was like, hey, this is pretty cool. But then, you know, you get older and I was like, hey, wait a minute here.
Some things just don't make sense, I will agree. But one thing, you know, we're going to again, the cool thing to do is to compare SA1 and SA2. Like, they're actually, like, there's cinematography to some extent in SA2. Like, there's not just 5 stock animations.
Oh yeah,
and
I agree. SA2 beats the shit out of SA1 when it comes to scene choreography. And I remember right, because I keep saying this, but I'm not entirely. The cutscenes were mocapped.
Maybe.
Yes, for some. No, yeah, there is. I'm not sure if every cutscene was, but the credits do list mocap actors, and I'm like, I'm not sure who the fuck you got to mocap this shit.
No, because some of the movements are very like.
Puppet.
Yeah.
which I'll be honest, I do like the fact that, you know, unlike SA1 and SA2, every scene has unique animations, but sometimes how the animation's so bad it makes me miss the intense stuff.
Yeah, it's like for some reason, mocapping Sonic characters seems to put everybody in a Super Sentai mood because you know
it fits honestly, I think it fits the kind of vibe they were going for in this game. Because
for my money, Shadow is the only character to have pretty decent animation throughout the game.
it fits his character. because like Sonic's
Yeah.
trying to jump around a lot, so I see what they were going for, and it didn't quite work. But Shadow's supposed to be cool and arrogant and cocky, and he doesn't jump around back and forth as much as Sonic does.
He's
So
the
it,
coolest.
yeah, he is. Come on, Shadow is awesome in this game. In this game specifically.
In this game specifically, where his story arc was supposed to end.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
honestly,
it
I
was.
think that's why it works, because they had a arc for him. It ended in a touching redemption moment, and then he was supposed
yeah.
to die. So
My issue with Shadow though is, and it's something we'll get in with when we get to Dark Side, but they kind of just took Knuckles' backstory and made it better in a way, and that never really sat well with me. Too much.
you'll have to explain that more to me when we
Well,
get to it, because
yeah,
I'm
I
not
will.
entirely seeing it right now.
I'm not seeing it.
But
But no, it's pretty much just in SA1. It's hinted at that Knuckles has no idea who he is or where he comes from, and they pretty much just take that aspect with Shadow to us.
We'll argue that later. We'll argue it later.
I would argue the importance. You know, Knuckles not knowing who he is or where he came from was never really an issue with
At
me.
what point did Knuckles
Tell
not
that
know
to Ken
who
Penders,
he is?
Johnny. Tell that to Ken Penders.
I know.
And this is when I stopped the part, because we mentioned Penders.
Penders is
We're
our kill
gonna,
switch.
we're gonna get sued. Oh fuck.